Am I awake? Am I prepared? Are you listening to my prayer? Can you hear my voice? Can you understand? Am I awake? Am I prepared? Ya la 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 la, 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 ya la 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 la. Am I awake? Am I prepared? Are you listening to my prayer? Can you hear my voice? Can you understand? Am I awake? Am I prepared? Ya la 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 la, 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 ya la 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 la. Barechu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam va'ed, Le'olam va'ed. Ya la 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 la, 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 ya la 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 la.
הנה מה טוב ומנעים שברחים גם יחד. 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 How good it is, how sweet it is, to be together on this day. How good it is, how sweet it is, to be together on this day. הנה מה טוב ומנעים שברחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומנעים שברחים גם יחד. שלום עליכם, סלאם עליכום. שלום עליכם, סלאם עליכום. שלום עליכם, סלאם עליכום. שלום עליכם, סלאם עליכום. How good it is, how sweet it is, to be together on this day. How good it is, how sweet it is, to be together on this day. הנה מה טוב ומנעים שברחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב
Please be seated.
Esa enaya harim mehain yavo Ezri meim Adonai Ose shamayim va'aretz Hayiten lamot raglecha Al yanum shomrecha Hine lo yanum velo yishan Shomer Yisrael Adonai shomrecha Adonai tzilcha Al yad yaminecha Yomam hashemesh velo yakeka ve'areach balayla Adonai yishmorcha mikora yishmor et nafshecha Adonai yishmor tzedcha uvawecha me'ata ve'ad olam me'ata ve'ad olam
121st Psalm. We lift our eyes to the mountains. From where will our help come? Our help comes from Adonai, maker of heaven and earth. God will not let our foot give way. Our protector will never slumber, for the protector of Israel never sleeps. God is our guardian. God is our protection at our right hand, so that the sun shall not strike us by day, nor the moon by night. God will guard us from all harm. God will guard our souls, our going out and our coming in, now and forever. Amen.
Amen.
Welcome, friends. Welcome to Temple Israel here in Westport, which was for Dale and her family a lifelong Jewish home. I'm Rabbi Michael Friedman, so pleased to be joined by Cantor Julia Cadrain and by all of you. And yes, it is a beautiful spring morning outside the windows of our sanctuary, but in here our mood, our hearts are a bit darker because now for a couple of weeks, our world and our lives have been without our dear and beloved wife and mother and sister and friend, Dale Winokur Troy. It is beautiful to see our sanctuary so full on this morning. Some of you were there in Florida with the family a couple of weeks ago. Others were not able to be there in person, but have come today, and yet others are joining us via the live stream. Even if you weren't able to be here in person, we want you to know that your presence is felt and is valued by us and, of course, by Dale's family. All of you are the ones and will be the ones who continue to guard and help this beautiful family make it through this valley of shadows, as we say in our tradition. For generations, the words of our Psalms have helped us, have given us comfort and guidance at times like this. So we'll continue with the 15th Psalm. Adonai mi yagor be'ohalecha mi yishkon bahar kodshecha. O God, who may abide in your house, who may dwell on your holy mountain? Only those who are upright, who do justice, who speak the truth, those who never slander others or wrong them or bring them shame, those who scorn the lawless, those who honor and revere God, those who give their word and, no matter what, never retract it, those who never exploit others and those who do not take bribes. Yes, those who live in this way shall never be shaken. And of course, also the words of the 23rd Psalm, which describe the biblical poet's vision of a perfect life, a life of comfort and ease and fulfillment and peace.
Adonai roi lo echsan bino sheyar bitzeni al mei menuchot yenach aleini nafshi yeshovev yancheni b'magle tzedek yancheni b'magle tzedek leman shemo gam ki elech begetz hamavet lo irara ki ata imadi shivtecha umishantecha hema yenachamuni Adonai roi lo echsan Adonai roi lo echsan.
God is our shepherd, we shall lack for nothing. God helps us lie down in green pastures, leads us beside still waters, and restores our souls. God, you lead us in the right paths for the sake of your name. And even when we walk through the valley of the shadow of death, we shall fear no evil, for you are with us. Your rod and your staff, they comfort us. You have set a table before us in the presence of our enemies. You have anointed our head with oil, and our cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow us all the days of our lives, and we shall dwell in the house of God forever. Amen. Ecclesiastes was a man who lived in Jerusalem more than 2,000 years ago. He saw so much in his days on this earth, and he left us the legacy of these words, L'chol zman va'et l'chol chefetz tachat hashamayim. For every single thing there is a season. There's a time for, there's a time for every experience under heaven. A time to be born and a time to die. A time to plant and a time to uproot. A time to tear down and a time to build up. A time to weep and a time to laugh. A time to grieve and a time to dance. A time to throw stones and a time to gather stones. A time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing. A time to seek and a time to lose. A time to keep and a time to discard. A time to tear and a time to sow. A time to keep silent and a time to speak. And speak we shall on this morning of our beloved Dale Winokur Troy.
Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam.
I first got to know Dale and Alex 7 or 8 years ago when they returned to Temple Israel. And I say returned because, as I mentioned, this was a lifelong home for Dale. The family moved here to Weston around 1970. Our brothers were bar mitzvahed right here on this bima. And so Dale and Alex returning here around, 2017 or so, was a bit of a homecoming. And each Shabbat, like clockwork, Alex and Dale would come in and they would sit just maybe a couple of rows behind where Alex is sitting right now. Dale always with the most beautiful smile on her face, radiating peace, radiating contentment. And I got to know them through those years. And then when the pandemic hit and we switched all of our worship services to Zoom, there they were, still regular, like clockwork. Judaism for them is core to their life and to who they are. The words that everyone has shared and will share about Dale in recent days and today are so incredibly consistent. Peaceful, loving, devoted, compassionate, calm, super bright and intelligent, a caring wife, a wonderful mom. That was true whether you knew her here at Temple Israel, whether you visited their home, whether you knew her through career, or whether you knew her as mom of one of your friends. We are here to pay tribute to the life and to celebrate the life of Dale Winokur Troy. And so I invite her brothers, Ted and James, to the bima first.
Hello, thank you for being here. James and I are Dale's younger brothers. We 3 siblings were very close, and we'd like to share some stories and thoughts about Dale.
Before we share stories, as the rabbi noted, this was our place of bar mitzvah about 47 years ago for me, 51 years ago for Ted. It is very nice to be back here. Our father, Richard, passed away about 5 years ago, but he and my mother and our sister Dale would have been sitting where you are all sitting watching us perform our bar mitzvah. Our mother, Joan, is home in Florida. She would love to be here, but she's recovering from a fall, hopefully watching us live stream.
So Dale was older than me by about 2 years. We were close enough in age that we shared a lot of experiences, but just far enough apart that I often looked to Dale to pull me up to that next level of growing up. Here's an example of what I mean. It was 1976. Saturday Night Live was in its first season. To me, age 15, and most other teenagers, it was the coolest show on TV, but according to my parents, was a little too adult for me. So one particular Saturday night, Dale and her high school boyfriend were having a date night, sitting on the orange vinyl family room couch, about to put on SNL. Not to be denied the cultural phenomenon, I snuck downstairs, sheepishly asked if I could stay up late and watch the show with them. Dale didn't appear bothered by my interruption of her date, and she welcomed me to join them, take a seat on the floor in front of the TV. I probably fell asleep before the weekend update segment, but I really valued her gesture of including me in the late night teenager TV rebellion club.
With a 6-year gap between me and Dale, it could be easy to assume we wouldn't be that close, especially in those early years, What does a 4-year-old in nursery school have in common with a 10-year-old fifth grader focused on punctuation, reading, multiplication, and dance? What does a 10-year-old Lego builder have in common with a 16-year-old Mustang driver? But even with that age gap, we were close. In those early years and throughout our adulthood, Dale wanted to laugh along with me and Ted. When we were kids especially, it was watching sitcoms and participating in our goofy slanguage. We were able to get along on all kinds of road trips, including the three of us crammed into the back of our Woody wagon, driving across the country and back. I think Dale loved the lighthearted nature of her little brother's banter. I once called flank steak flying steak for the fun of it, which somehow Alex remembered recently when I entered her hospital room in New York. That's how he wanted to let Dale know I was there. In fact, we called different things different names. I started calling butter butash. One day I said, "Pass the butash," a reference to friends of our parents. Dale was a willing participant in our shenanigans. She enjoyed that.
Yeah, James and I engaged in a lot of shenanigans. We had our own fun, generally creating mayhem around the house while Dale was studying. We had an uncanny ability to be annoying, according to some people who yelled from upstairs to stop playing music in the basement. That would be us playing music. But I do remember at least one time Dale got up to a little mischief. When we were little kids, we lived in Miami, and she thought it would be hilarious if she dressed me up in one of her dresses and makeup. I reluctantly went along with the gag, or knowing Dale, I probably wasn't given a choice, and we snuck out the back of the house and rang the front doorbell pretending to be a couple of neighborhood girls. We did have genuine good times as kids. Dale was a good skater, tennis player, and downhill skier, and those were always great family activities. I envied her ability to swing a hula hoop around her hips for what seemed like hours.
Dale was a big presence in our family. Not so much a second mother, but more like operations director, a role she continued in the Troy household, Alex referenced and may reference again. She could be the domineering oldest sibling, like when Dad would grill dinner. No one could start eating right away. Dale would say, "Let me cut into the burgers to see which one I like best." But mostly there was fun. We played board games and shared a love of music, from the Beach Boys to the Beatles to Dave Mason. I remember when she went to a Dave Mason concert, it seemed so out of character. Dale's going to a concert? But it wasn't at all. She really was multidimensional. She even watched football with us, particularly the Miami Dolphins, who were the family's team, since our dad was an original season ticket holder when we lived in Miami. She wanted us to be close, part of the family.
We three Winokur kids shared a love of the arts, instilled in us by our parents, especially our mother, Joan. We all played musical instruments, and Dale excelled at the flute. I trace our musical journey back to 1966, when our parents bought a Baldwin upright piano for us to learn on. Dale had just turned 8, and I have it on good authority from our mom that this was one area where Dale was not the most hardworking student. Still, my little ears must have been thrilled by the sound of her practicing, and I'm sure it captivated me. Soon I became the one who was passionate about the piano, leading to a lifetime of music making. I still have that old upright in my house, and I play it almost every day. Another important object that represents a bond Dale and I shared was a sporty blue 1970 Mustang hardtop. That was Dale's first car, and it became my first car when she headed off to college. She had always looked very cool driving it around Weston, and I hoped her coolness would be passed down to me along with the car. Later, I sold the car so I could buy an electric piano, since I couldn't play the old Baldwin upright in my new band. But we don't want to leave the impression that growing up with Dale was all fun and games, loud music, and fast cars. We all worked hard in school, and Dale led the way. While our parents offered good advice and support, Dale was my special academic counselor. We had similar academic journeys, and she forged them 2 years ahead of me. I remember finishing 8th grade and facing the terrifying prospect of starting at Weston High School in the fall with those intimidating older kids who smoked and had facial hair. Knowing that my older sister and her friends would be there to look out for me was very comforting. I also didn't have a clue about what classes to take or who the good teachers were. I relied on Dale's insider tips in order to fill out my first high school schedule. I would talk to Dale about the stress of college life, the hard decision to go to law school, how to survive the pressure of studying contracts and torts. I'd like to think I was Dale's test case for what became her future business advising students. She continued to hone those skills with James and eventually with her own kids.
There's no question Dale was the apple of our parents' eyes. They certainly wanted all their kids to aspire to their love of education and academic success, but there was a certain spotlight the firstborn gets. Dad helped Dale with math, using flashcards, edited school papers, and generally encouraged her academic achievements. One of my closest moments with Dale was a very emotional conversation between just the two of us. I don't recall if it was prior to college or during college, but she revealed to me a certain lack of confidence about achieving what she and others had come to expect of her. I remember feeling surprised about the revelation. Maybe typical of the thirdborn, our parents generally gave me the line, "As long as you try your best, that's what we care about." I believe she felt the burden of being the firstborn of her generation, not just in our immediate family. She felt there was an expectation she would follow in her grandfather's and father's footsteps to Yale and Yale Law School. I mean, come on, they named her D-A-L-E. She had a good cry about it, and I was there to console her. I hope in some way that discussion, which she may have never revealed before, was helpful. But as you know, she kept at it and made those aspirations come true, achievements that would affect so many lives in the future.
As we entered adulthood, we started families of our own. Dale married Alex, and the brother soon followed. James married Megan, and I married Jean Marie. We three couples all had our children around the same time. Excuse me, sometimes being pregnant together. This meant many happy years of family gatherings and all sorts of combinations of grandparents, aunts, and uncles, and 7 cousins. Dale often hosted holidays and multiple reunions. There were massive kid sleepovers in their basement, the floor covered wall to wall with inflatable mattresses. Dogs of all shapes and sizes added to the cacophony and the laughter and barks. It was joyful, loud, and fun. If a sheep escaped the backyard petting zoo at a Troy birthday party and trotted down the suburban street, being chased by several of us, so much the better. At other times, we gathered the troops and went on family retreats. We spent a few beautiful summer weekends in Vermont with all of our kids and our mom. One summer, we rented little cabins on the Cape. I don't know if you remember this, Alex, but I do. That trip was memorable to me because at one harrowing moment, we almost had to rescue the Troys, who struggled furiously to paddle their canoe back to the dock as the stream was carrying them away. It was scary. Whether we were away on vacation or hanging out at one of our houses, our families always had fun playing and spending time together, from competitive games to croquet, to splashing in the pool, doing puzzles, taking long walks, eating wonderful food. We shared the joy and challenges of raising our kids and shepherding them through life's milestones. Nothing gave Dale more pleasure than being with family.
I'd like to conclude my portion by telling you about some of my favorite memories of Dale dancing. Excuse me. There were the high school performances of Once Upon a Mattress and Guys and Dolls, and there was a memorable dance film project. She was so creative. She envisioned a dance in 3 acts. She choreographed the dances herself. Our father, Ted, and I were the film crew. There were 3 different locations. The most moving piece to me was filmed while holding the camera, sitting on the back of the Woody Wagon tailgate, while Dad drove slowly on a dirt road. Dale danced moving toward the car in what filmmakers would call a tracking shot. I'm not sure how she thought we could pull that off, but we did. We did because when she set her mind to it, she could do anything. That particular dance was set to a ballad called All by Myself, a heart-wrenching song about loneliness. With Dale's passing, many of us are feeling that emptiness, but we have to remember how much she filled all of our lives and how fulfilled she was knowing all of us, spending her adult life with Alex and raising 3 wonderful daughters. I will choose to remember Dale as the energetic, smiling, laughing big sister. Not so much the academic star, but the dancer, flautist, and cast member in our family bits and general goofiness. My wish is that she's now reunited with family in whatever form that takes, especially the father she adored, and that no one feels alone.
I hope we've been able to give you a sense of Dale as the caring, loving, and trusted older sister that James and I had fun with and looked up to. Writing these remarks has helped me remember how truly special our relationship was. I want to close with one more example of Dale's caring nature. Dale was quite knowledgeable about nutrition, and this was another area where I trusted her advice. Some time ago, we both started avoiding gluten, and we bonded over our shared interest in gluten-free food. We love sharing discoveries of new gluten-free products and even mailed each other our favorites. Between my gluten sensitivity and lactose intolerance, I'm a terrible dinner guest. But Dale always went above and beyond to be considerate of my needs. My meals at Dale's house would begin with her taking me around the table, showing me which dish of stuffing I could eat, which dish had dairy in it, and which dessert was for me. I knew she would always have me covered, just like she had in so many ways. Thinking back now, I clearly see how Dale profoundly enhanced my world from childhood to adulthood. Dale's incredible presence meant the world to us, our family, and so many other people. Thank you.
We invite Alex to the bema.
Doesn't matter which one? No. Well, I guess I should start by thanking you guys for saving my life. I forgot that, so, yeah. And I do want to say, Cantor and Rabbi, what a collaboration with King David. I've never felt the 23rd Psalm the way I did when you sang it. That was beautiful. Thank you. And I guess lastly, I want to thank, before I get into my remarks, I want to thank my daughters, Ariel, Abby, and Rachel. They made this service happen. The truth is, I contributed little more than my Amex card to this. Their effort and their focus in bringing all of us together reminds me of the way Dale oversaw family gatherings and milestone events. So while we're on the topic of bringing people together, I want to thank God, whose providential hand guided Dale and me into one another's lives. Dale and my story starts at Yale on a summery September night in 1979. The parents had dropped the kids off and departed, but classes had not yet begun. That brief interval is a college Eden. There's no grades to earn. There's no grown-ups keeping watch. Everybody was ready to play. The night Dale and I met, the campus felt enchanted with its towers and belfries, its graceful arches and grinning gargoyles, and with the overflowing energy coming from the soon-to-be students. At that moment, Yale could have been mistaken for the world's only neo-Gothic amusement park. In the spirit of that evening, I decided to tag along with 3 senior friends. I was a junior, 20 years old. They were headed to a dance at what used to be called Calhoun College. We were almost there when, coming in the other direction, I saw a cute girl, a petite, bouncy blonde, smiling radiantly, still moving to the music she had been enjoying at the dance, and which we could only faintly hear. She said hi to my friends. Like them, she was a senior. And then, spontaneously, I hadn't had a single beer yet, but I was feeling courageous. I said hi. Dale came over to me. I can see her tilting her head up to meet my eyes. I'm almost a foot taller. And she was smiling at me. Her face was radiant, youthful. Her blue-green eyes were shining. And she said, "I don't think I know you." Now, where the answer I gave came from, I'll never know for sure. I said, "No, you don't, but I'd like to get to know you." Now, why did I say those words? Looking back, I'm convinced that the same providential hand that had guided us to that spot at that moment had placed them on my lips. And believe me, I needed the assist because that 20-year-old kid from West Orange, New Jersey, was capable of saying some really crazy things. So she laughed at what I said, and she seemed intrigued. And we stood and talked, and eventually I persuaded her to go back to the dance. She had just left with me. And there in the Calhoun dining hall, which was now the dance floor, our brief connection weathered its first challenge. I saw immediately that Dale was a beautiful dancer, graceful, energetic, joyous in her movement. But what did she see? Something out of Dr. Frankenstein's lab. A large creature moving arms and legs spasmodically as if electricity were being shot through them. As I lumbered around her, never in time with the beat, not even by accident, she looked amused. But it's only now, 45 years later, that I understand the significance of our first dance. I would learn later how important dance was to her. She really wanted a boyfriend who could dance. And in fact, she could have just sashayed off into the night and the story would have ended there. But somehow, thankfully, she had an intuition that there was enough promise here to ignore my comically bad movement. After the dance, we found a place to sit. We had a long talk. We learned a great deal about one another. Each of us was surprised to learn the other was Jewish. In my case, I was wearing a preppy outfit that threw her. I had on a Lacoste shirt, khaki pants, striped belt, docksiders, and the truth was I was running away from my West Orange roots, and I think my outfit fooled her. And in her case, it was her blonde hair, her unusual first name that tricked me. But we also learned we were both serious students, and we were both hoping to go to a good law school. And the other thing that we found that night is we laughed a lot. Dale loved to laugh, and her laughter always drew out my own. On one of our earliest dates, a Woody Allen movie, we noticed that we both laughed at the same lines. And when we noticed that, we looked at each other in that theater, and we started to laugh even more. From the start, there was chemistry between us. But chemical reactions proceed at different rates. Dale was 21 then, mature and poised. I was 20, going on 16. That disparity, she was a woman, I was a man-child, proved a challenge. We had our arguments and eventually one serious breakup, but months after the breakup, when we started reconciling, she told me, "I always knew you would come back to me." I understood because I felt the same. I believed we would be a couple again. I want to share one more Yale story. It was the moment when I knew that we were destined to marry, that we were beshert. Now it was wintertime at Yale. I came back to my room from a basketball game in a giddy mood because the USA had beaten Russia in hockey in the Winter Olympics. But my giddiness evaporated when my roommates told me to call home. My grandfather had passed away. Bereft, I called Dale. We met in the archway leading to Branford's courtyard. Branford was her college, and if you don't know, that's Yale's fancy word for a dormitory. I told her the news. She had never met my grandfather, but she cried. Those falling tears came from the deep well of her soul. They showed me how loving she was. They told me she was my soulmate. We were married in 1986. Ariel was born in 1990. For the 6 years that Ariel was an only child, we doted on her, giving her our all. And this made us closer. That was a hallmark of our marriage. The longer we were partners, the deeper our love grew. There's a verse from the book of Genesis. Isaac took Rebekah as his wife, and he loved her. The rabbis point out that the word marriage comes before love, or the idea of marriage comes before love in the verse. The rabbis say this shows the most enduring love is not something one is suddenly struck with. That's a crush. The most enduring love is built over time, built by working together to make a family and a life. After Ariel's birth, we found that having another child was difficult. We worked for several years with fertility experts, and eventually Dale conceived, believe it or not, triplets. But mercifully, one fell away, and we were blessed with twins. It was a very difficult pregnancy. Dale spent nearly 40 days on bed rest, but Abby and Rachel were healthy at birth, thank God. With Ariel and the twins, Dale decided to devote herself full-time to being a mother. Trained at the Yale Law School, blessed with a strong work ethic and excellent judgment, we both knew she was leaving aside what would have been a brilliant career. But she wanted most of all to be mom, and any thirst she had for running something was surely satisfied by the expert way she managed our household. In Jewish culture, the mother occupies a special place as the family, as James said, the family's COO, Chief Operating Officer, and frankly, in our case, CEO too. That was true in our household. The traditional name for this kind of dynamic, always on the go, wife and mother is an Eshet Chayil, or woman of valor. At our wedding, my father toasted Dale, saying she would be an Eshet Chayil. I had never heard the term, I wasn't familiar with it, but Dale would teach me its meaning. I want to share a final story to illustrate how selfless Dale was. In 2016, I had the chance to pursue a dream and become the leader of a rather unusual boarding school. Dale supported me fully. She cheerfully left behind the stone home in Greenwich that we spent so much time planning and building. We moved into a tiny bungalow that was grandiosely called the Headmaster's House at a school in Greensboro, North Carolina. Greensboro is 600 miles from Greenwich, but a light year away culturally. What made the move most challenging for Dale is she didn't have a job and an office to wake up to the way I did. But a woman of valor, an Eshet Chayil, doesn't complain. Dale met the challenge and was soon working with students, teaching them to dance in the school plays. And with the perspective of hindsight, I see that Dale was rewarded for taking that leap to North Carolina because she learned she had a knack for working with students, and she learned she loved it. And I think that was an important part of the inspiration for starting her own business working with college students called Crush College Stress. Well, our story started at Yale, and it started to end there, too. For reasons I will never understand, the providential hand brought us back to the campus, this time for a biopsy of a spot on her pancreas. As Dale underwent the procedure, I wandered around the campus anxious and scared. I ate lunch at a familiar place, walked in the shadow of the same arches and towers that had provided the enchanted background for our first meeting. And it hit me that though I was then 64 and Dale was 65, we were once again sweating out a test at Yale. Only now the test mattered more than anything we had ever taken before. And this time, we did not get the grade we needed. And that started us on another journey, a hard and painful one. There are those who say that a good marriage is like two bodies sharing one soul. Now that soul has downsized to one body, and I feel her presence and I hear her voice all the time. Dale, I'm so grateful I got to know you as I said I wanted to do on that September night long ago. Dale, I will always love you.
It's appropriate to share the words of Eshet Chayil, a poem found in the 31st chapter of the book of Proverbs. Generally shared on Erev Shabbat, as Shabbat comes in. Praise of husband to wife or children to mother. The woman of valor, who can find? She is more precious than fine pearls. Her husband trusts in her, and so he lacks nothing. She does good, never harm all the days of her life. She knows that her labor is rewarding, and her candle burns on into the night. She reaches out to those in need and extends her hand to the poor. She is clothed in strength and dignity. She faces the future courageously. She speaks with wisdom, and words of kindness are forever on her lips. Her husband sings her praises, and her children rise up and bless her. So now we invite Ariel.
It is impossible to sum up my mom in a few words because she played so many roles for many different people. A coach, confidant, friend, cheerleader. But to me, she was everything, every role. One constant across the roles she played was the positivity she brought to each one. She did everything she set her mind to the fullest and taught me to do the same. Always calling on me to be the never give up girl. While she was analytical and orderly, except for with her own closet and home office, she was also light, silly, and creative. Her creativity is something she inherited from her mother, my Nana Joan. Today I have the honor of reading a poem that my Nana wrote and dedicated to my mother. Time to be free for my extraordinary Dale. We knew, the seagulls and I, they swooped and glided, catching the currents. I spread out my arms to be lifted up, join the party, to whirl in a tarantella. I inhaled the freezing breeze, felt it fill my empty spaces. My toes barely touched the ground. I was ready for the string to be released. Joan Heller Winokur.
And finally, we invite Abby.
First of all, I'd be remiss not to share a very special thank you to my partner, Michael Guadagno, who has worn many hats as of late, everything from chauffeur to therapist to in-home repairman. Thank you, Mike. You are so easy to love, and my mom loved you just as much as I do. Speaking today is difficult because it forces us all to acknowledge the tragedy that has transpired really did happen and to accept this new unfamiliar world as status quo. But I'd love to focus on the bright spots, on the beautiful moments that speak to who my mom was and who she'll always be. As you've surely heard by now, Dale would move mountains for her people. I remember when I started at sleepaway camp, I was age 11, I sent her a slew of letters begging her to pick me up because of my homesickness. But these weren't just ordinary letters. I circled my tear stains on each page, and I complained about the quality of my cabin. I said that there was false advertising that made the bunks out to be newer than they were. My mom was worried sick when she got my letters, unable to rest until she knew I was okay. While I'm sure she would have figured out a way to airlift me out of Maine if necessary, she was able to convince the camp to let me call her against their own rules. She even arranged for the latest Harry Potter book to be left on my bed as a surprise. But my mom's generosity extended beyond our family. For instance, she volunteered with Meals on Wheels, which is an organization that delivers food to seniors to combat hunger and isolation. She forged a close relationship with an elderly man named Tom, who was blind and lived alone without family nearby. One day, she took me with her to make her regular deliveries. In addition to bringing Tom the standard meals provided by the nonprofit, my mom had begun to stock Tom's apartment herself and filled his shelves with things like cornflakes and paper towels during my visit. She had also effortlessly built a relationship with Tom's family members, becoming a trusted source of information about his health and a bridge between state lines. My mom couldn't bear to see someone succumb to loneliness or to the notion that they did not matter. She had a miraculous way of making people realize that they did in fact matter, even when they didn't believe it before. There are so many moments I wish we could have shared together, but I'll take comfort in a conversation we had a week or so before she passed. My mom apologized that she wouldn't be able to be at my wedding, her eyes and my own welling up with tears. But before we could dwell too much on that reality, she consoled us both by saying that all she'd ever wanted was for me, Ariel, and Rachel to be happy and to end up with partners who loved and supported us, and she could be comforted by the fact that that wish had come true. I love you so much, Mom. I see you in my dad's desire to know the details, in Ariel's knack for managing the household, and in Rachel's fierce devotion to the ones that she loves. You've given me a lifetime of love in just 27 short years, so thank you for everything.
We offer a song special to Dale that I'm imagining as a blessing from her to her family. I hope you never lose your sense of wonder. You get your fill to eat, but always keep that hunger. May you never take one single breath for granted. God forbid love ever leave you empty-handed. I hope you still feel small when you stand beside the ocean. Whenever one door closes, I hope one more opens. Promise me that you'll give faith a fighting chance. And when you get the choice to sit it out or dance, I hope you dance. I hope you dance. I hope you dance. I hope you dance. I hope you never fear those mountains in the distance. Never settle for the path of least resistance. Living might mean taking chances, but they're worth taking. Loving might be a mistake, but it's worth making. Don't let some hell-bent heart leave you bitter. When you come close to selling out, reconsider. Give the heavens above more than just a passing glance. And when you get the choice to sit it out or dance, I hope you dance. I hope you dance. I hope you dance. I hope you dance. I hope you still feel small when you stand beside the ocean. Whenever one door closes, I hope one more opens. Promise me that you'll give faith a fighting chance. And when you get the choice to sit it out or dance, I hope you dance. I hope you dance. I hope you dance. I hope you dance. I hope you dance.
So friends, I want to once again thank everybody for being here today. More importantly, thank you for being with Alex and with Dale's daughters over the recent weeks and then in the stretch of time to come. Whether you're here in person or you're joining us via the live stream, you are a part of this beautiful circle of family and friends. And everyone here in attendance is invited to join the family following the conclusion of this service, not right now, but in a few, at their home for a gathering. The address is 230 Nod Hill Road in Wilton. It's only about 15 minutes from here. And so I invite all to now rise for El Malei Rachamim, the memorial prayer. In our Jewish tradition, we acknowledge that there are two aspects to each human being. There's our body, which is born and grows and is used to dance. Eventually may develop a disease, as Dale did, and eventually pass. Dale's body is in Florida. It's been interred there. But the more important part of Dale, her soul, which is comprised of all the parts of her that could not be touched, her love, her generosity, her intelligence, her caring, her drive, her determination, her compassion. The words could go on and on. All of that is her soul. Her soul is with us here. Her soul is in the hearts of those who knew her and loved her. And also her soul now dwells under the wings of God's sheltering presence. So with these words of El Malei Rachamim, which Cantor will chant and I will read, we ask God to take extra special loving care of the dear departed soul of Dale Winokur Troy, known in our tradition as Devorah Bat Moshe B'tzivia.
El Malei Rachamim, Shochein Bamromim, Hamsei Menucha Nechona, Tachat Kanfei HaShechina, Im Kedoshim Uteharim, Kezohar Harakia Mazirim, Et Nishmat Devorah Bat Moshe Utzivia Shehalcha Leolama Bahal Rachamim Yastireha Beseter Kenafav Lolamim Bitzror HaChaim Et Nishmata Adonai Hu Nachalata V'tanuach Meshalom Al Mishkava V'nomar Amen.
Compassionate God, eternal Spirit of the universe, we ask you to grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence to Dale Winokur Troy, Devorah Bat Moshe Utzivia, who has now entered eternity. O God of mercy, let her find refuge in your eternal presence and in the shadow of your wings. Let her soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. God, you are indeed her inheritance. May she rest in peace. And let us all say,
Amen.
And we turn to words of Kaddish Yatom, Mourner's Kaddish. As we do, we say, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher yatzar etchem betzalmo, vezan v'chilkel etchem betuvo, ve'imit etchem badin, v'nata b'tochechem chayei olam. We praise you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe. You have formed each of us in your divine image. You have nourished and sustained us with goodness. You've caused each of us to die, and yet you implant within us immortal life through the lives that go on beyond our time on this planet. Baruch atah Adonai Dayan ha'emet. We praise you, Adonai, our God. We call you our righteous judge. I invite, if you choose, to join us in Mourner's Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, ve'alma divrach cherutei ve'amlich malchutei, v'chayechon u'vyomechon u'v'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'vizman kariv ve'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam u'mei almaya, Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yit'halal shemei dekudusha b'rechu, leila min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, damiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, amen. May God grant peace to those who mourn and comfort to all those who are bereaved. And we say together,
Amen. We offer a prayer for peace. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha, tasim leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha, tasim leolam. Ki atahu melech adom, lecho hashalom. Ki atahu melech adom, lecho hashalom. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha, tasim leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha, tasim leolam. Tasim leolam.
we know that there are so many of you who wish to share your love and condolences with Alex, with Ariel, Abby, and Rachel, and with Dale's brothers, Ted and James, as well. So we'll invite the family to follow Cantor and myself into the reception room. We'll form a little receiving line, and all those who wish can also come through and offer, as I said, a hug, condolences, and some love. Our service is concluded.